Okay, already. This season, we're coaching someone through what so many of us go through.
I'm Alison.
I'm Michelle.
Meet Sophie. She stayed too long, she'll break up, she'll heal, she'll date, she'll spiral. She's you, she's us.
We'll walk with her and you through every phase, from heartbreak to wholeness.
If you're tired of the chaos and ready to thrive in singlehood and in love,
welcome to season 3. Oh,
that was
so
so
close.
good.
Hello, welcome to episode 2. And today we're here again with Sophie, and she has a very good question for us about being a narcissist versus just being an unhappy person. And this is a very heavy topic, so brace yourself and let's get into it. So her first question was, how do I know if my partner is a narcissist or just emotionally unavailable or unhappy? And did you want to go first? You want to?
Oh, I was just saying, it's hitting hard straight away.
It is. Oh, we're going straight for it.
It's a pet peeve of mine about kind of calling people narcissists, like left, right, and center.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like everything is a reason to be kind of calling out people and it's taking things to the extreme, and it's just a bit annoying. So I'm glad she's asking us these questions metaphorically.
Yeah. Well, side note, I think everyone's a narcissist these days with social media and posting the perfect pictures. And why do you think there are mirrors everywhere? It's the best decoration ever. People like looking at themselves.
I agree. Everybody's a narcissist today, and everybody wants to kind of put the best step forward. And I think it's kind of, it's kind of like the word gaslighting and manipulation and everything. They are terrible. Don't be with a narcissist. Don't accept to be manipulated and things like that. But also, you manipulate and you kind of gaslight people sometimes. And it's just kind of finding that balance. Like, show me the person who says she never gaslights and I'll show you a liar. Type of situation. So, it's a good thing to get into because, where do we tip over? And I'm just going to start by answering, I think it's in terms of frequency and intensity, but mainly frequency.
And intent, I would say.
And intent, yeah.
Yeah. And I think you have to look out for patterns and how it's happening, when it's happening, what is happening. So, for example, if you're having an argument, as we were discussing last week, and they're only just thinking about themselves and how they feel in the situation, and anytime you try to say how you feel, they either don't hear it or they immediately counter it by yes, but sure, you feel that way, but it's because you are doing whatever, but I'm fine. Like, they never take any accountability. They're always great and only their feelings matter.
Yeah.
But if they're only trying to get you to hear their feelings as well, then it's an important distinction, because maybe they're feeling like you're not hearing them as well. So it's also looking out for the patterns in them, in whether or not they're also listening to you, and whether they're always only listening to themselves or only caring about their feelings, and the patterns that you have in yourself and how you are reacting and behaving. And are you also listening, or are you thinking they're a narcissist and in fact you're the one who's only thinking about your own emotions? So it's an important thing to first look inwards before you look outwards.
Yeah. And this isn't to say that that you're a narcissist.
No, of course not.
And this isn't to say that you should accept shitty behavior that doesn't quite meet the standards of narcissism, but it's still shitty behavior. but it's, nobody's perfect, and everybody's kind of allowed to slip up and be a bit self-centered sometimes. And also, I firmly believe that the only way that you can be happy with somebody else is if you are a bit of a narcissist and happy with yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
You need to, and this is actually how I think now that I'm a mum and everything. I would say, put your needs first, and
Yeah.
then, so, it's the cliche of when your cup is full, then you can fill other people's cups. Put the mask on first, whatever. So, it's a bit of that. So, what you said about intent, and listen to what they're saying, and are they saying, you know, I'm right and you're wrong and blah blah blah, or are they saying, okay, I behaved badly, but this is how I'm feeling, and obviously it's a bit of a, then you can hear narcissists hearing what we say and then adapting their techniques and things, and it's all, but it's just, you want to mind the frequency and mind, how you feel it's intended.
Yeah. And I think also in relation to the patterns, you also want to look, is it a pattern that happens only when we're arguing? Because then it may come from frustration that when you're arguing, they feel like they don't get the attention they want or
Yeah.
deserve. And is it in everyday life as well? Is it in, when you're at home and they want you to do everything and they just want to, relax and whatever, and just thinking about themselves? And I had a long, hard day, so you can do it. Are they only wanting to go out to the places that they want to go to, only thinking about their feelings and
Yeah.
their wants and needs and desires and whatever it is? So you have to look at like the different aspects of your life together, and whether it's across the board or just a specific type of situation. And if it's just a specific type of situation, I would look deeper into that type of moment of what's different in that moment that brings this side out of them. And again, I hate also the word narcissist, and I think it's, people like to use it very frequently. Like they like to use buzzwords all the time, like, this, he's such a narcissist, and it's just like it loses from its impact, because
Yeah.
when you're using it all the time, then it's just meaningless, because everyone's a narcissist and everyone is a narcissist in one way or another. And as you said, we should be. It's funny because I was thinking about it this the other day. There was a trend going around, which was a terrible trend in my opinion, because it's ridiculous, but it was very accurate of how people were, I don't know if you've seen it, but they had like these cups with tea or dirty water, whatever it was, and they were showing how their grandmother passed on her own baggage to her daughter, and how
Oh,
her mother passed on her baggage back to herself, and how she's finally doing the work. So she's pouring a lot of clear water and a lot of doing the work until the water's clear, and then she has a better baggage and a better self to give on to her own children. And I think that's very accurate in the sense of when you have a lot of baggage and a lot of pent up emotions and scars and things that you're holding on to, then that's what you're going to get from your, sorry, that's what you're gonna give on to your children, to your partners. There was a study that was done, and a lot of people, like, let's say, sorry for the grim comparison, but after World War II, they did I think it was a study about like how Holocaust survivors' children had secondhand trauma because of the parents passing on the trauma to their kids. And and so I think, yes, you need to be a narcissist and take the time, narcissist with quotation marks, and take the time to clear yourself up. Obviously, we're always going to have something and it's not 100%, and that's fine, but you need to take the time to like look inwards, see why you're reacting in certain ways and how you can improve. So that way you can react better to everyone around you.
to kind of like go on to what you were, one of the things you were saying and answering Sophie, like how to tell what a narcissist is, and just kind of thinking about people in my life and things like that. Because when you said like depends on why they do something and if they do something for you and things like that, it kind of got me thinking. And I thought if they do something in reaction to an argument you just had, then that does not count. Like that's not a positive thing that you hold on to.
Yeah.
Kind of, if they cheat or are violent or something like that, and then they buy you flowers or jewelry or whatever, that doesn't count. Like, do they do positive things just completely independently from an argument you've just had? And that can kind of tell the person that they are. And so, from this, I mean, if you've had an argument and then a couple of days later something amazing happens, for me, that doesn't count. It has to be just kind of out the blue. So, for example, JT, anytime he goes food shopping, he's going to bring me back like Reese's or, just like last time we recorded. Do you remember? I was
Yeah.
feeling really down and he just went food shopping and brought back all the necessities and then Reese's and orange juice, which he
I
knows are my guilty
remember.
pleasures. It's like really sweet. And he's just out of the blue for no reason.
Yeah.
Or or I know this other couple where he knows that she had a rough day at work. He'll draw her a bath and put candles. To small things like that. Drawing a bath and buying Reese's is nothing when it comes to money and spending, but it's like it does a world of good. So when you're thinking about is my boyfriend a narcissist, that's a good indicator. Like, does he do things just out of the blue? Nowhere near an argument. Because last time we were also talking about arguments and how often are they, and that kind of all ties into it. And just what does is there any effort into making life positive type of thing? So if he is doing all of these things about being a really good supportive person, not trying to make himself be forgiven for anything or whatever, then yeah, I would say it's unfair. If sometimes he's thinking about himself and not putting your needs first 100% of the time, then yes, I would say that's a bit, it's a bit unfair. In a relationship, I feel, you tell me what you think, but it should be 50-50. So you need to put your needs first 50% of the time, and you need to put Zev's needs first 50% of the time. Sophie needs to do the same with her boyfriend, and I need to do the same with JT. It's maybe a bit more ourselves, maybe 60-40.
Yeah, I think it really depends on the situation and how much you have to give at a specific time. But I think in general, yes, you need to give as much as you're getting. And I think if you've had a long day, if you've had a rough day, if you're feeling down, and if you have, like, I went through a turmoil a couple of weeks ago after one of my contracts ending, and so I didn't have 50% to give. I had maybe 20% to give, but luckily Zev was feeling good and generous, and he gave me that
Yeah.
extra percentage that I needed. And I think that's the key in a relationship. And if they're constantly seeking for you to give more than 50% without doing the same for you, then that's a bit of a tell on whether someone is a narcissist or not. And I think that's just part of being in a relationship, is sometimes giving more than the other person, and
Yeah.
depending on the situation. And it also ties back to an argument, the first argument that Zev, or the first serious fight that Zev and I had in our relationship was a few months in, and I can't remember for the life of me what. Oh, I actually can remember what it was about, but it's irrelevant to the story. But he sort of closed up, clamped up, and got stuck in his own head, and how the argument impacted him and how he felt. And I tried to express myself and I tried to get him to hear me, but I felt like there was no one listening. I felt like he just couldn't hear me. And it was frustrating. And in that moment, I was like, do I need to leave this person? Because I don't want to be with someone who every argument clams up and shuts me out and makes me feel like I'm going crazy because he can't hear me. And I had to take a moment to look at the full picture and not
Yeah.
just this specific little micro moment. or macro, no macro. So yeah. um, and so I had to look at every other aspect in our relationship. We're still early on, but how does he behave and treat me in other situations? Does he listen to me? Does he bring me thoughtful gifts? Does he show that he cares? Is he there for me? And if the answer is yes across the board, except for this one specific situation, then I highly doubt he's a narcissist. And I don't think I need to leave him for this, but I do need to figure out why and what happened. And we worked it out and we spoke about it. And it's happened a couple of times since, but it's not because he's a narcissist, it's because something's going on inside him and he's working on it. And also, I learned a lot about myself in that situation because
Yeah.
maybe I also was trying to just hear me in that situation and instead of trying to figure out why he's clamping up like that. So again, it's a lot of, and this requires a lot of maturity and a lot of putting your ego aside, like I said last week with the arguments, of just being able to not only point a finger right away, it's also taking a step back a moment, looking at yourself and looking at the whole situation and looking at the whole picture from above and not just, zooming in really close and seeing this tiny little thing that's. And again, looking for patterns.
Yeah, and what you said about kind of like it's, the micro and macro and just kind of analyzing what it is. And it's like the next question Sophie had was like, how can I tell if it's, a red flag or if it's just, an amber flag or even just a bump
Mm-hmm.
in the road? And I think, okay, in that argument that you had, did he try to make you feel bad about yourself?
No.
And I think that's where it all kind of makes a difference
Mm-hmm.
because I'm kind of, I've never met Zev, but from what, I've briefly seen of him and what you say of him, I knew the answer before you gave it. And also
Yeah.
thinking about, times where I wasn't my best self and times where my partners, weren't their best selves. And at no point did they ever try to, well, one did, but I'm not with him anymore. But like, I'm expressing my feelings. I'm expressing, you're expressing your feelings, and it's just in reaction to something you said or did. But I'm just saying it to make you understand the reaction, not to make you feel bad about yourself. And just, this is what it meant for me, and just, this is what it's meaning for you, and all of this. And I think there's the difference. And I think if you're somebody who says, yeah, he was making me feel bad, then I would go from that gut instinct of saying, yeah, he was trying to make me feel bad. And I think, go from there because it's the most important. But once you've had that feeling, then also reassess of just once you're there, you're there. Like there's no turning back. It's like kind of getting the ick. Once you're there, you're there. And don't force it. But also take a moment of just, was it really them or was it a bit of you?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the biggest red flag is he or she trying to make you feel shitty about yourself? Or is he or she just expressing, their feelings and a reaction to the situation? And, and
Yeah,
I
because
think
go
no,
on.
no, go.
It's okay to get caught up in your emotions. It's fine. We're
Exactly.
human and that happens. And I think that's the distinction here is, are they getting caught up in their emotion because they're overwhelmed, because they're just feeling it and it's hard for them to let go and maybe you just need to give them time? Or are they just stuck on their emotion because that's the only thing that matters and whatever you're feeling is irrelevant
Yeah.
because you're the problem and they're pointing a finger at you? And also, again, are they not willing to let go of their ego? I think that's one big red flag in general, when someone's not willing to, not the point of like, they let you step all over them, but in the point of that you can say when you were wrong, you can say that the other person is right, you can say you're sorry, you can say that you have things to learn and you have places in yourself and your life that you can do better in and improve. And or are they just dead set? When someone's dead set, stubborn, and not willing to not listen, not change, not move, then that's
Yeah.
another flag. And one more thing I will say is that also if they're not if they keep promising, or if they keep over promising and under delivering, they
Yeah.
keep saying they'll do it, but then, time passes and they just don't do anything. And so their word means nothing.
And what you said about changing, I think is a very good point of, are they willing to change? Yes or no?
Yeah.
If the answer is yes, then probably not a narcissist. If the answer is no, then check yourself. Are you willing to change?
Mm-hmm.
If your answer is no, then you're probably just not meant for each other, which is fine.
Yeah.
We're not saying if he's not a narcissist, you need to stay with him. We're just saying stop calling people narcissists when they're just being people.
Yeah.
And it's okay to, there's this thing about, and I'm kind of wary about Sophie going into this of just, I'm only dating negative, shitty men, and I can't find the right partner. It's just, is it really the shitty partners, or are you kind of,
Mm-hmm.
not willing to change? Are you not very self-aware? And just, if you're attracting 100% shitty narcissist people,
Yeah.
is it bad luck, or is it you bringing out the worst in them, or is it you only choosing to see the worst sides in them? Because I think that's
Mm-hmm.
the most frequent one. We easily say, you bring out the worst in people, blah blah, and it's just, you are nitpicking the look at everything else that this person does, and you're nitpicking the
Mm-hmm.
shitty things. I once had this friend who, the guy drank his drink weirdly, and so she ended the date.
Oh.
And I was like, he's handsome, he earns decent money, you had good chat on Tinder, and just because he did this weird thing, he like his glass was set on the table and the straw was poking out, and so instead of taking
Yeah.
the drink, he kind of just went over the drink and drank from the straw as a child would.
Yeah. Oh. Well, I guess we'll get to it in the dating episode way down
Yeah,
the line. But there's a lot to say about being picky, too picky, and when
yeah,
you should and shouldn't be picky. So stay
yeah,
tuned for that because there's a lot to say about it. But we're not
yeah.
digressing. So
But I think a good way to end like this whole narcissist episode and thing is what she was asking, like, you know, my needs aren't being met. Does that mean he's a narcissist or abusive even? The answer is no. If your needs are not
mhm,
being met, that does not mean he's a narcissist. He can be, but it's not correlated.
yeah,
A good person, an amazing person can, not meet your needs. I
yeah,
mean, let's, if we take an example of a great person, uh, I don't know. I can't think of anybody who's in the public eye who's a great person. But
no, they're all
okay,
narcissists.
Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves,
Well,
great
I
person. Well, I mean, he gives off the image of being, the guy from Matrix.
yeah, I know who he
All
is.
right.
Don't
So
know him
he
personally.
gives off the idea that he's a great
Yeah.
person.
Hmm.
But he lives on the other side of the world, and he kind of does all this, and he's not ever going to move to France or whatever you are. And so he won't meet
Yeah.
your needs there. That does not make him a bad person. And it's just, good people don't necessarily meet your needs because they have their own stuff going on. And that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. And I mean, the question is why? Just like everything else in life, if you're struggling to find answers, first ask yourself why. Why are your needs not being met? Is it because they just can't give you what you're asking for because they don't have it, or because they're not that type of person, they're not the right person for you, or is it because they just don't want to? Maybe it's because they are a narcissist and they're only thinking of themselves. Maybe it's because they're completely oblivious and they don't know how. Maybe they've just never had a proper healthy relationship, so they need time and guidance and whatever it is. Again, you have to ask yourself why and where it's coming from and be honest, because a lot of times we like to lie to ourselves because
Yeah.
we want a specific truth and we don't want to break up and start over again with someone else. But holding on to something that just isn't working, because you're scared there's nothing else out there, is going to make you more miserable. And I think a lot of times we don't know what else could be out there because we don't give it a chance, and we just stay stuck in something miserable. We say it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, hope this helps you, Sophie, and I hope you find your happiness without, having to settle on narcissists.
Yeah, and also see beyond those, little things.
Yeah, and to really find and to make that distinction between what matters and what doesn't. So,
yeah.
Anyway, let us know what you think a narcissist is, and if we use the word way too much, and if you've ever dated a narcissist, and what were the red flags that you saw?
Yeah. And how do you differentiate narcissists from just people being people?
Being unhappy. Yeah, just going through a phase. Anyway, thanks for joining us. Hope you enjoyed. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, wherever you are. Love to hear you and your voice. So comment. Anyway, bye-bye. That's it for this episode of Pop Culture Cupid.
Thanks for hanging out with us. We're glad you're here.
Make sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit for more behind-the-scenes real talk.
And if you want to support the show, check us out on Patreon.
Until next time, be kind, be happy, be healthy, and remember, heartbreak isn't the end.
It's the plot twist.